word feminist is a tricky word. That's what Malala said very much earlier on until she heard Emma Watson's speech at the UN. So we know of feminism is about being equal for the rights of men and women. So yes, I think I'm a feminist, definitely. And I'm just also speaking to my two guests here who are guys, and both of them said they are feminists too, which is really, really supportive. Now, we know a lot of people who are smokers. We know that some among us who are smokers as well. With this month being Lung Awareness Month, how much do we know about smoking and how bad it is for our health and for our lungs? Now, joining me here are two doctors, Dr. Helmy Haja Mydin, who is from the Malaysian Society Council representative for tobacco control. We also have Dr. Raja Abdul Malik, who is a family medicine specialist, head of the Health Screening and Wellness Center from Beacon Hospital. Good morning to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, good morning to two feminists as well. Now, Doctor, we have become so aware of, the health detriment of smoking, right? And there's just so many campaigns that's been done to encourage people to stop smoking. How do you think, how far are people aware, or are we just desensitized to all these messages surrounding us about, just quitting?
I think it's a constant battle, you're right. The tobacco industry is such a huge entity, it's a huge monster, and it's going to take plenty of effort to try and cut it down to size. So you were mentioning how we know of how bad things are. So we knew from as early as 1950 that tobacco use led to heart attacks, led to lung cancer. Here we are, related smoke product that is probably the only legal product in the world that kills its user when it's used as intended. So it's a constant battle, but that's why we need to keep going at it. It's like, do you play video games? No,
rarely.
No, okay, wrong crowd. But if you play video games, you go up to different levels, yeah?
Right.
You get to this last level where you find this large monster, the supervillain, and you keep going at it each time and you fail. But each time you fail, you learn from your mistakes. You learn from what works well. And eventually, in our case, policy-wise, we need to learn from mistakes we've made in the past, and we need to learn from friends around the world. And eventually, we will cut it down to size. It's just a question of time.
Time. Okay, now what about for people? I mean, they have all these messages. You're saying, with time, we may come to realize the time to stop it? Or
I meant in time, as a society, we'll be able to defeat tobacco.
Wow, okay, so you're very optimistic about that.
I am.
It's the people themselves, the smokers themselves. I think they're just not ready, or they just don't want to stop. And the awareness is already there. Maybe the switch is not toggled or something. Until that happens, we're going to have this problem again and again, and it's going to be a continuous thing.
Right. Now, just coming from the medical fraternity, right? What are, number one cause of it? What is the stats with the current number of smokers do you have, doctors?
I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, there's 20,000 deaths that can be attributed to smoking.
Is that in Malaysia alone?
In Malaysia.
Okay.
In Malaysia. And it was not so long ago that these numbers, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, that number was quoted to be 10,000.
Wow,
so,
okay.
It's doubled in over a space of a few years. And this has got to be very worrying. So the numbers are there. I think there's about 5 million smokers in Malaysia. And that number itself is growing, considering we are a population of 30 million. That's quite a big number. And these numbers are just increasing and increasing. So, we need to stop somewhere. The facts are there, the stats are there to show that this problem is increasing all the time.
Right.
Yeah, don't you?
One thing which I may add, which may be the Global Adult Tobacco Survey, and the latest results for this year show that the prevalence, so the rate of smokers amongst men, has actually dropped a little bit in Malaysia.
Okay.
But the rates among women have gone up. So instead of 1% of women smoking, which was about 4 or 5 years ago, it's now gone up to 1.4%. So that's something that I think we need to be wary about as well.
Okay. So, I'm wondering, with this rat race that we live, right? This whole lifestyle that we're leading, is it also a contributory factor to the number of women that you mentioned to take up smoking? Now, smokers, for all we know, we know them. I've got friends who smoke for years, some who smoke 2 packs a day. There are just a lot of reasons that motivate them to continue smoking. They're aware of the the bad effects of smoking.
Course, yes.
They see the pictures. I believe that they are desensitized to all these images and these messages. Their reasons for smoking are varied, are wide-ranging. Some, it's because smoking helps them de-stress. And there's this addiction to nicotine. So perhaps, doctors, if you can just tell us, how do we conquer that? This whole thing about smoking and distressing when stress levels are mounting. So, your feedback.
I think there are a lot of factors when somebody smokes. I'm sure you agree with that. And as you said, stress, social circumstances, peer pressure. So there is not just, and of course the addiction, the physical addiction to nicotine itself. So I don't think that's just the one thing that's actually motivating the person to smoke. Maybe one big thing, but there's other supporting casts as well. So to stop smoking, I think the difficulty is it needs to be a multi-pronged attack. You can't just address the problem of addiction to nicotine, for example. You must find out why do they smoke, what's pushing them to smoke, what's encouraging them to smoke, the social aspect, the psychological aspect, and this takes time.
Yes. For different people, it's a different motivation.
Yes,
would you say
exactly.
so?
Definitely. So some smoke, some stop smoking because they are walking along the road, they're fine, and boom, they get a heart attack. So there's this sudden trigger that I need to stop. Some stop smoking because they're expecting a child. Some stop smoking because they reach the age of 60 and they think, oh my God, I'm going to get lung cancer. So it's about channeling the motives towards a particular decision and marrying that with psychological support and medicinal support. So it's not as straightforward. People like to say that I knew my friend who just quit like that. I don't understand why you can't quit as well.
Yes.
But every individual is different. It's all about finding what makes that one person tick.
Okay, and we know that quitting cold turkey, some can do it. A very small number of people that I know just quit overnight and manage to stick with it. But for a lot more smokers, it's an uphill battle. Now, we're going to talk more about the motivations that encourage people to keep smoking and also some effective ways to conquer and hopefully quit smoking. That's all coming up after this quick break. I like that. Within a day, a week, a month, and a year, you can see drastic changes when you quit smoking. And there are some very inspirational images that you can find online about how twins. I saw this picture of a twin sister. Now, twin sisters, because there are 2 of them. One who has never smoked her entire life, and one sister had smoked for 25 years. And you put those 2 pictures side by side, and you can see how the one who smoked has aged and has wrinkles as well as age spots and also this darkness under the eyes, and you can see the wrinkles above the lips. Now, I'm joined with 2 doctors here, Dr. Helmy, Haja, Mydin, who is from the Malaysian Thoracic Society Council, as well as Dr. Raja Ahmad Shahrul from Beacon Hospital. Now, these 2 doctors are talking to me about the quitting effects and how to quit smoking for good. Now, this is in conjunction with Lung Health Awareness Month this November. So doctors, Let's now look into some of the associations. I think the associations are some of the driving factors that keep people with their cigarettes. One thing we know that a lot of ladies associate smoking with losing weight. Now, I've got friends who say that when I smoke, I don't have to do much exercise. I can eat a fair amount of food without having to worry about it every day. And I know my cigarettes, my smoking habit will keep my body in this shape. So I don't have to put on too much more, any more weight. Now, with that being one of the factor, what's your input, doctor? I mean, from the health point of view.
Okay, I think it's substitution. Most people say that when they stop smoking, they put on weight. But you find with these people, the reason because that once they stop smoking, they eat more to replace, the habit.
Is it because the appetite comes back after
sometimes, yes. Your taste gets better. You tend to appreciate food a lot better. And sometimes, the time that you smoke, you replace it with a sweet, for example. So if you're smoking 20 cigarettes a day, 20 sweets is quite significant. So that is, to me, to experience, that was one of the things that's actually replacing what you eat, that you smoke with what you eat, and also the association of that.
So your appetite comes back. So when you quit smoking, you just know that it's going to come back, this taste and this smell.
Your smell gets better. Your
life becomes better.
Yeah,
life becomes better.
You appreciate things more.
Right.
So, and food is, Malaysia food, goes hand in hand, really, isn't it? So,
So you have to kind of find, if you intend to quit smoking, then you kind of have to find some healthy lifestyle habits to cling on to or to cultivate, because you know that once you get better, as you say, Dr. Helmy, your life gets, it's sparky.
It's also about identifying what's important for that particular individual. So I've had people come to me who wanted to quit smoking because their breath smells and it wasn't very pleasant with their partners. Others who, I think there was a advert on the TV earlier on about how the skin looks better.
Yes.
You have more toned skin, it becomes firmer. So if those things are important for you, then that's what you should be focused on. Just last week, I had a girl come to me who wanted to stop smoking because she was planning to have kids. And we know that smoking affects fertility. And can actually lead to miscarriages if you continue smoking during pregnancy. So it's all about the right goal, the right motive, and it's about marrying that motive to the individual. What's important for you is going to make you go through that difficult point where it's difficult to quit. And quitting smoking is by no means an easy thing. That's why we have to support them as much as we can.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Dr. Helmy just said. You need to have the motivating factor. Why is it you want to quit smoking? And I've also had people come in my clinic that, he sits there and he said, no, the first thing I said, do you want to quit smoking? I said, no, actually I don't. I came here because my wife asked me to come here to see you, So I don't think that works. I mean, you need to. You need to
kind of embody that whole motivation to quit.
Smoking, and you need to know why.
Unless he gets into trouble with his wife for not smoking.
Right. So, but the unfortunate case is that a lot of people quit, or when something happens to them, when they either have a mild heart attack, or when they feel that their body is just something is not right, something is wrong, and when they go for a medical checkup, the doctors say if you continue smoking, you will not live past beyond this age, right? Until that's a bit too late. Now tell us, doctor, why is it so difficult? I mean, nicotine is a drug and smoking is an addiction, right? So people say, you pointed out, the factors that should encourage people to quit smoking, but we know quitting is an uphill battle. So how do you do it? Is there a right way? Is there a factor here? You're saying first things first is to have that will, that personal will to want to quit.
Correct.
How do you find that personal will if you don't have one?
Before we get to that, I would like to take a step back. Because you mentioned that in certain circumstances it's too late. It's never too late. That's something that everyone must be clear about. In fact, World COPD Day, that's Chronic Obstructive Pulmonary Disease, emphysema, is on Wednesday. And this year's theme is it's never too late. And it's because no matter at what stage you quit, there will be some improvement. Even if you're diagnosed with cancer today, quitting will actually improve the outcome from chemotherapy. If you have to go for an operation today, quitting will improve your operative outcomes. So it's never too late to quit. And I've forgotten the question you asked.
Oh, no, I was just saying how to efficiently quit smoking. Now, before that, you mentioned that, it's never too late, right? Now, I've heard of someone say this online on a medical journal that if you quit beyond a certain age, like less than 40, if you've been smoking all your life, up to age of in your mid-30s at least, if you quit then, your body will go back to its full health at least. It kind of starts to rejuvenate. And you can be almost as healthy as a person who has never smoked when you reach your 40s or your 50s. Is that true?
It takes time for the body to rejuvenate itself, but yes, if you quit early enough, then yes, the effects will minimize over time and things will improve over time. Some things will never go back to 100%, like your lung function, for example, will never be as good as what it possibly would have been without smoking, but things like risk for heart attacks, that can actually normalize over time. So yes, it's never too late, but quitting earlier will actually give you a lot more in terms of added advantage.
Now, Dr. Raja, you have seen a lot of patients, right, who come to you. What is some of these common factors that you hear again and again and again?
Okay, the most common things I see is that personally is the person has tried it many times, but they fail. So why do I do it again? Okay, we have to tell you that it's not easy to stop smoking. Not many people do it first time. Multiple attempts to get it right. And to stop smoking, I think the main things are the addiction to the nicotine itself, the physical addiction, and the psychological part of it. I think there's two main factors that you need to tackle. Those who smoke 4 a day, I don't think they have much addiction to nicotine. It's more habitual.
Right.
The stuff that they do, they need to get this cigarette after their meal.
Or even before, when they start their day, it would have to be a cigarette with the papers in the toilet.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Come fasting month, for example. Why can you not smoke for the whole 16 hours, right? And you can't do that in any other day, right? And the first thing they look out for when they break fast is a cigarette.
Yes.
It's habitual. The nicotine effect is not really there anymore. If you smoke 3 or 4 days, correct me if I'm right, don't tell me. But it's this
association.
Yeah, the association.
Yes.
The psychological part of it. I think that needs to. That's the most difficult part, I think.
I can see what you're saying, because also now some friends have commented that smoking is a very social thing for them. So if it's in the office, they take a ciggy break. So they commute, they kind of hang out together at the balcony, and then they chit chat and they exchange ideas, and they say, it's a great time to hear what people are saying and
network.
And network, that's right. So it all happens with cigarettes. Now, and also some, when I mentioned earlier, to losing weight and to distressing. So it's all those psychological associations that we pair together with cigarettes. So if we can break those associations, right, probably that's a health experts are saying cultivate good habits. What do you do? Take up activities like jogging or fitness, or just something that keeps you interested.
Motivation, I think that's one thing, and I think support from family, friends, the profession around you. Those are very, very important. What I find quite beneficial lately is the use of social media. I always tell my patients, if you want to smoke today, go to your Facebook, put it up as a status that is, from today I've seen the doctor and my aim is to stop smoking at this date, right? If you are my
not now at this date.
At this, you need a stop date, right? I always give them a stop date, so that's the date where you target that you stop smoking.
Okay.
Right. Put up in WhatsApp group, Facebook, whatever. This is my stop date. Tell the whole world about it. Right. Tell the whole world that's your stop date.
So once you tell the whole world, you have to stick to your.
Yes. One, you have to. Yeah. There's no going back. You have to stick to it. And also, it's amazing that the people around you, how much they can help you as well.
Your spouse, your family,
correct.
Your friends.
The odd few people who write up there, it's your stop date today. If you stopped yet, So those things I think play a very important role.
So how about if you always hang out with friends who smoke, and they become your close friends? So if you're going to stop, does it mean that you have to tell your friends in a very, a firm manner that I have stopped smoking, so I hope that, you guys respect that and support me in that effort? I mean, how do you do it?
I think friends would be appreciative of the fact that you want to stop. And most smokers do want to quit. It's just for one reason or another, as we discussed earlier on, they continue smoking. But having people who understand your motivation, having people around you to support your move is actually going to be very important. So you may have a guy smoking all the time, he wants to quit, but his wife smokes as well and she doesn't want to quit. And there's no way on earth he's going to quit easily, because every day at home there's going to be someone there smoking with the same aroma, with the same cigarettes on the table or the chair. And that's why it's important, like you were saying, you need to have the support of people around you and also be aware of the triggers. So if you know, for example, that coffee is going to make you want to smoke, then you need to be prepared for that. You need to avoid the situation, or perhaps go to a different scenario where you get coffee in a different manner, for example, or a completely different place. So you need to break that routine, break that connection between that act of smoking and a particular even piece of furniture sometimes.
Okay, so now this addiction to nicotine, obviously it's a calming factor, or whatever factors it gives us, it drives us. What about smoking cessation methods? People have, either they use a patch or, something like a sweet, or even vaping we will discuss after the break. But some of these cessation methods, do they work?
They do. As with all things, they do not work 100%. And one thing about quitting smoking is most people will have to quit a couple of times at least before they quit for good. What's appropriate for you, once again, depends very much on the individual. So the best way to quit smoking is a combination of nicotine replacement therapy. That could be either through patches or through gum. If you go overseas, there are other options. You're never going to be on sprays for the rest of your life. You have a target in mind, and these things help you go through that difficult period. Because like you were saying, you have this feel-good sensation when you smoke, and if you cut that off completely, it's going to make life really, really miserable.
Right, and you obviously have this psychological also factors that come out, right, where you quit cold turkey. So this gradual method have proven to help people quit smoking. Okay, now a lot of talks also about vaping and how vaping is a method that smokers use. And now with vaping dominating the headlines, we have to talk about it. But I have both of my guests here, joined by another guest. We're going to take a quick break. It will all happen after this. Another form of cigarette that's been dominating the headlines recently, that's vaping. And now vaping is a huge income generator for Malaysia. We are called the second largest vape liquid producer. This is Malaysia. And with some quarters calling the ban of vaping, thus far we have heard the Health Ministry say that it will not ban vaping, but the sale of nicotine will be done by pharmacists and medical practitioners. Now, on the health aspects point of view, does vaping help smokers quit smoking? And is vaping even considered something that's healthy? Because we have, again, conflicting reports. Some say vaping is okay, some say vaping is not. Now, joining me to clear the air, I have two doctors who have joined me earlier on, Dr. Helmy and Dr. Raja. I also have Samsul Kamal Arifin, who's just joined us. Now, he's the president of MOVE, Malaysian Organisation of Vape NTT. Now, Samsul has been a smoker for 25 years and a vapor for 3 years. Good morning, Samsul.
Good morning to you.
So you have been very busy, I suppose. People are calling you because of all this headlines that have been dominating news
like
these
you can't
days.
imagine.
Now, tell us, Samsul, just go back to your smoking history. Now, 25 years of smoking, that's a very long time.
That's right.
How bad was your smoking? How addicted were you?
I'm glad that we are talking about topic of to quit smoking today, because I managed to quit smoking and I was smoking for 25 years.
How many packets a day
About
were you
a box
smoking?
a day.
About a box a day.
And interestingly enough, I quit smoking the first day I started vaping.
Did you have an intention to quit?
Of course.
What was your intention?
Because it was affecting my health.
Okay, so you knew, what were you seeing?
I was having chest pain, and I was not able to lift my son up, because of stamina issues. And I guess it's quite obvious that smoking is detrimental to health. I think if you check on the box, it stated that there's a warning. Did you?
And pictures as well.
Yeah, that's right.
They are very disturbing pictures.
Right,
yes.
right.
Okay, so you mentioned that vaping on the first day kind of reduced your addiction problem to cigarettes.
Not reduce. I stopped totally within 24 hours.
Okay, so you were looking to gradually stop smoking. Is that what you were looking at? Is that what your aim was?
I wanted to stop smoking totally.
Right.
So then, allow me to say this. There's been a lot of talk about vape of late. And especially there seemed to be a selective demonization of vape in the media, talking about a few things, namely about formaldehyde, and also about a drop of sperm count, and also about it being used for embalming of corpses, and also about it causing cancer and death. I would like to ask, for those who are actually coming up with these statements, unfortunately came up from Ministry of Health. Where are the basis of these statements from?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously there are, for what we have done the research on, Bella, there are inconclusive reports, even on the medical side, on what vaping and the dangers of vaping are, because at the moment there's just not enough research and survey that's been done.
Well, allow me to share with you a few
Before
data.
you go on, Samsul,
Right.
we actually brought our cameras out to the streets to ask people their thoughts on the act of vaping. Let's just take a look at this.
I think it's no harm about vaping. It's a fashion right now, but this is a very sensitive issue. As long as you know your limit, as long you have fun, so you just enjoy it.
I don't really know much about vaping because we don't really know, do we?
Honestly, I think vaping is no harm to it because I've done all my research and there is no specific research that says vaping is actually harmful to the body, not as thorough and specific as cigarettes. You know what cigarettes can do to you. So in that sense, I think we're a society that's still learning more about vaping, but so far, so good. So I think vapers are doing it okay, but the only problem is it's quite expensive. And it's an expensive hobby, and if you want to kick your habit of smoking through vaping, it's going to be a longer process, I feel.
I think nicotine is never safe. A lot of people's, justification for vaping is because you cut out the tar, but nicotine is just as bad because it's addictive. I will not be one to judge because, everyone's got their vices and all that, but if you ask me, tar is bad for your body, so is nicotine.
Unnecessary, like cigarette. I don't think it's something that everyone needs. I don't think there's a purpose to it. Holding something that is that big in your bag and carry it around and smoke it inside of the building, for me, the act itself is disrespectful. So it's my strong opinion that vaping is a major no-no.
I don't smoke, and then I actually allergic with the smoke. Vaping for me, it's okay for me. I can stand it. It's better than people smoking beside me. So I'm cool with it. Yeah, I'm cool with it. Yeah, it smells nice. Yeah, okay.
So have very conflicting reports. Also, people's opinion on what vaping and the act of vaping. Now, medically, what happens, or what is the constituent in a vape liquid, doctor, as opposed to a cigarette?
I think that the clips that you showed were actually very useful because it just demonstrates how much confusion there is and how much people don't really know. And as a result, like you quite correctly pointed out, some people go overboard with the dangers. Yeah? Right. Excuse me. In theory, this is an excellent tool because you have the potential, and I repeat here, the potential as a harm reduction tool.
Okay.
The problem we have is there is no way to say for sure that what you are taking in an e-cigarette is safe because there's no quality standards to it. So you don't really know. Yes, we know there are four main components inside the juice. But it could quite literally be made in the backyard of someone's house.
Right, okay.
You don't know what's in it.
So it's a production method. You need a standard of quality.
Exactly.
To it. Okay.
So for example, one has been comparing e-cigarettes to methadone. So the way you would give a heroin addict methadone to try and get them off the addiction is the same way you would want to approach e-cigarettes.
Right.
However, if we were to use the same sort of analogy, then what you're doing today is you're telling the cigarette smoker to go get your methadone from the drug dealer down the street without any real A, psychological support to get away from the addiction, and B, quality control to ensure that what you're getting is the true product.
Yes.
So I agree totally that we have a potential here to get to a point where we can harm reduce, but at the moment, it's not quite there yet.
So it's not regulated in a sense that you have this quality assurance and quality control to the type of vape liquid.
That's right.
Now, vape liquid, in terms of its nicotine content, is it lesser than a pack of cigarette, or just 1-to-1 ratio? What is it? What does it stand? Doctors?
Good.
So studies have shown that they vary.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you can also measure the amount that you actually vape in, yeah?
Right.
Right.
Depending
okay.
on the machine that you have, the generation that you have. I think it's up to 5 generations now, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So it's different content of
different
nicotine
content, different amounts of concentration. One problem I also personally have as a physician is the fact that nicotine on its own is poisonous. A patient come to me who was having some difficulty breathing, and he was telling me how each time he took a puff of his e-cigarette, he could feel the liquid seeping into his mouth.
Right.
And that's quite dangerous because you could literally die
Yes.
from overdose of nicotine.
Right.
Which once again goes back to quality control, ensuring that things are done appropriately. About A.
Okay, all right.
And secondly, my concern, and one of the concerns many medical professionals have, to the point where we released an open letter to Parliament last week, 40 medical bodies and NGOs, the concern is we might be undoing all the efforts we've made against the tobacco industry. So you look at the way some e-cigarettes are being marketed. You've got colors, you've got flavors that are going to attract children, going to attract the youth. You have magazines with women in bikinis, which are extremely demeaning to women,
Yes.
and it's basically sexualization for the purpose of marketing. And these are the individuals who are giving people like Shamsul a bad name because he wants to help smokers.
Right.
And I'm sure he's doing all he can to improve things to the point where we all come to an agreement, a consensus.
All right.
But at the same time, you've got all these shenanigans going on.
Yes.
How do we deal with that?
That's true, that's true. So again, it needs a regulated industry on this one. Now, Dr. Raja, can you just tell us also, is there a bad effect to secondary smokers with e-cigarettes? Because we know cigarettes, secondary smoking is harmful.
I think there is. Basically,
is?
you don't need anything else but oxygen when you inhale, really.
Right.
Okay, and it's shown that every time you inhale something, not everything is absorbed. About
Right.
30% of what you inhale is exhaled again. So depending on what's in that, you're still inhaling it. But in the longer run, I think the effect of vaping as such is not only to the health of to the individuals as such, but the other things are like you said just now, is the possible of it being a poison to
Yes.
kids, for example.
Yes.
There's 3,000 related nicotine poison in the US last year, causing 1 death, for example.
Okay.
And we are also worried that these e-cigarettes can be used as a tool to give synthetic drugs.
Okay,
So you
so
can put
we never
stuff
know
inside.
what's
Yeah,
happening
yeah.
in somebody's backyard if they are doing it illegally or
Correct.
just
And
whatever means they want to include or add in.
Yeah,
Now,
and I think also we need to understand, I think Shamsul agrees with me that he's in it because he wants to stop smoking, right? And you are in it because you want other people to stop smoking. You are against people trending for it to be. You don't want people just because it's a trend.
That's right.
You're not into all that, right? I totally agree that it's a very good harm reduction tool, but until we have regulation
yes.
and more studies
To be done?
to be done,
Evidence.
Okay.
evidence,
Right.
I think,
That's good. That's good. Now, I've spoken to some people, even our makeup artist in this room here, in our studio here. Now, she managed to stop smoking because of vape. And vape has helped her, and now she's not even relying on vape. Sometimes she goes days without having her vape tools off. She can go to work without even bringing it because I think that nicotine addiction has finally stopped. So now she just vapes for the habits, and it's just very occasional in a week. Now, for you, Shamsul, your story is how addicted now to you to vaping since that you have stopped smoking?
All right. Before I answer that, I think there are a few issues that I should address coming out from two doctors just now, if I may.
Sure.
Number one was the mention about the danger of nicotine and it being as a poison. Generally speaking, most vapers vape at around 6 mg nicotine per 30 ml. And the threshold level for it to be a poison is about 60 ml. Nobody vapes at 60 ml. Again,
so it's only 10% of it?
Yeah, so these are actually evidence-based. It's not just from something that we hear or a rumor. So then that clearly states that the nicotine content in vape, e-liquids, even if you were to vape and if you were to accidentally have a drop of it on your tongue, it shouldn't lead to poison.
Is that the same for children?
No, of course this is not for children.
Yes, but if you have if you have electronic cigarettes on the table and some kids told to take it.
Well, you can't blame vape for that. You have to blame the caretaker. May I use an analogy about accidents, for instance?
With cigarettes as well, right?
Yeah, I mean car accidents. Malaysia have the highest number of fatality on the roads. Are you blaming cars for it? I mean, let's be fair.
That's a point there. Now, back to your story.
Yeah. Then number two about drug-laced liquids. Again, I need to clear the air because we don't have many opportunities for us to actually speak to the public. And all the public is reading on the newspaper is about how bad it is. Now, coming back to drug-laced liquids, let's look at it scientifically. THC, or the active ingredient in any drugs that makes you high, it carries a non-polar molecular structure. PG and VG, which is the content in e-liquids, propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin, carries a non-polar molecular structure. Both of these structures cannot be solvent together. What I'm trying to say is that you cannot mix drugs with the e-liquid. It will simply not work.
Right.
Yeah, it will not work unless you use a method that is called iso extraction. You need to be a rocket scientist to do that.
Right.
So then again, all these stories about vape being drug-laced, being poisoned by nicotine. Let's look at the facts and the evidence based on this.
Can I interrupt with some facts?
Yes, sure. Can we just keep it very short because we're down to very little time?
Fine. So very quickly, we're not talking about mixing drugs into the e-liquids. I totally agree with you. That's quite physically impossible.
That's right.
But you can use the device. And if you, in fact, CNN had a documentary recently about the increasing use of amphetamines with e-cigarettes in Florida.
Okay.
That's an issue in Hawaii because they've been using cough syrups. So it's not about the juice itself that's being mixed. It's about the device and the way that you can actually take drugs without being detected.
This is the issue in America. Apparently, this is not what is happening here in Malaysia. What has been going on in Malaysia, or what you have been reading in news, is that they said that in the e-liquid itself, there are drugs in it. This is the issue. What's happening in Florida, in what we have seen in CNN, I totally agree. This is a new development.
Can we all agree on one point, though, that the industry is not regulated enough, that we don't know, as you say, the shenanigans behind who are developing some of this vapor liquid, could be in their garage, could be, and so we need a regulated industry and some standard so that we know that every vape liquid is safe for people's consumption.
Well.
Okay, all right. Now, can we just come back to your story, Shamsul, of how you use vape to help you quit cigarette, because a lot of people here, that's in conjunction with health awareness, lung awareness month, and so to help people and inspire people to gradually quit. What was your story of success here?
I was curious as to what vape was. This was about 3 years ago, and I contacted a friend because I keep on seeing him posting it on Facebook. So I contacted devices on the table, and I was trying it one by one, and I found that if this thing can actually help me to quit smoking, if it helps me to quit smoking, and if I were to vape and I get the same sensation after I have lunch, for instance, then I would carry on to vape. And fortunately enough, after 24 hours of trying it, I managed to quit smoking totally. And I have not touched a cigarette. I can't even smell the smoke of cigarette nowadays. Interestingly enough, the nicotine content that I am taking now has gradually dropped as well.
Okay.
I started off by 12 mg. Now I'm taking it at 9. After that, it was at 6. Now I'm really more or less around 6 to 3 mg. So you can see that the concern about nicotine being addictive, can't be justified when most of us, this is not unique to me alone, most of us who have been vaping for more than 2 to 3 years are actually gradually taking the nicotine content.
Do you intend to quit nicotine for good?
Of course. Ideally,
Really?
I wouldn't want to smoke and I wouldn't want to vape. And I think to sum it up, just in a minute here, I think for us vapers, we see it as a solution. For non-smokers, they see it as a problem. I think what we need to achieve is to find a meeting point where both parties have to empathize and understand where they are coming from. I totally see their concern about vaping. I totally see it. This is why we need to regulate it. We need a tested product, and we need a product that is safe.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So, doctors, before we round up this conversation here, your input on vaping to help smokers quit, and also should vaping be something that we should ban?
I think the first thing we should be aware of is there are also other forms of support to help someone quit smoking. Okay. So like the things we mentioned before with regards to psychological support, nicotine replacement therapy, drugs like Champix. So those things have lots and lots of evidence base behind them, lots and lots of papers to prove that they work, and we need to approach the individual holistically and need to see what drives them, because otherwise we are in danger of substituting one form of addiction for another.
Right, okay, all right. Dr. Raja?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. I think more research needs to be done in terms of what are the, if there are any effects with regards to long-term vaping as such. This has with no numbers with regards to that. But again, I totally agree. We don't want one substitute of one problem to be another problem. But at the same time, we can't just close our eyes and say this is not good. There is potential here, as you can see. There are a lot of people who smoke.
So it's another medium to help smokers quit smoking eventually, and that's again leading to something healthy, which is a healthy lifestyle.
Correct. But it needs to be regulated, because even now there are people who don't smoke and who don't do anything at all. They vape, and then it's on the other way around now.
Right. So as Dr. Helmy says, we have other methods. So do you think we should engage other methods before we try vaping, or should this be open to individuals? Whatever suits you best.
If we're going to go by evidence, we go by what works for sure on paper. And if I can just end very quickly, one of my favorite phrases from literature, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We need to be very careful. The intention is good, the potential is there, but we have to be very, very careful.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Samsol, for sharing your story and your input. Thank you, doctors, for sharing your input on the medical side. What we can sum up here is that there are just inconclusive reports and evidence on the efficacy and also the health aspect and the safety aspect of vaping until more comes out. And also we agree that the industry should be regulated so we have a quality product. And smoking as a vice is something that we should encourage people to stop, because again, it's all about health and wellness. And we hope that this has inspired you in some ways to lead you to your path, if you're a smoker, to eventually quit smoking. Now, we're going to have some lifestyle updates after this very quick break, so don't go anywhere.